Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlipp. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_data. All right, so we've got some news and notes here. I want to go through that first. I would like to get started on the Minnesota Vikings, but something else came up that I thought about we should probably talk about. So, hopefully, we'll have a little bit of time to get into the Vikings. They're a common opponent, so we kind of know them, but they are, at least from my perspective, one of the most, if you're not really paying attention, you're sitting back going, what the heck is going on over there? Which is kind of where I'm at, because I don't have a freaking clue what those people are doing over there. It's very confusing. But we'll see if we have time to get to that. First of all, the I guess biggest news at the top of the day here, Jordan Love officially did clear concussion protocol, meaning he is good to go, he's ready to rock and roll, and he can play. With that said, it was also apparently immediately announced that he will not play despite clearing concussion protocol. Neither will Malik. Clayton Tune is going to be our starting quarterback. Now, very, very stark disagreements on the part of the fan base. I've seen a lot of it already. People are, regardless of the decision, people would have been furious. No question about it. And I've already said what side of the issue I'm on. I'm not going to pretend to completely not understand the perspective that we need to be playing. I've already kind of talked about, how scary it is to, obviously we're going to try to win the game. That's not in question, but if assuming we lose, it's a little scary, the thought of going 0-4 going into the playoffs. Now, with that said, first of all, how much does that actually matter? What is this mystical thing that's going to happen to our team? Some kind of a mental collapse that isn't going to happen if we beat the Minnesota Vikings? And by the way, there's a lot here. But didn't we do this last year? Didn't we have this discussion last year with Chicago? And I don't even remember what side of it I was on. I kind of think I was on the side of we should play. But we ended up playing, and we were losing anyway. I mean, it's not even just a matter of should we risk people getting hurt and win, or should we, try to minimize risk, at least to our top players, erase the risk to our top players and lose? Well, no, it's should we start our players, risk our starters, risk them getting injured? And by the way, not just injured for the playoffs. When we lost Christian Watson, we lost him for the playoffs. We also lost him for half of the regular season next year. But there's no guarantee if we start our guys, we're going to win. And there's no guarantee if we don't, we're going to lose. But there is there's a pretty strong, let me put it this way. I can almost guarantee someone will get hurt in this game. And the risk is exceedingly high with basically no benefit other than, again, this sort of weird thing that apparently is going to give us some kind of a major boost beating the Vikings team and risking our starters in doing so. I can't imagine, as far as the risk and reward goes, I just cannot in any way imagine that the payoff, if we win against a team that's on a 4-game win streak, I believe, if we win, that's going to give us some kind of a boost over and above whatever injuries are likely to happen in that game. Again, it's not that I don't, to some degree, understand it. But when we're talking risk-reward, for me, it's really not even close. When people are talking about this is proof that he doesn't want to win, and he's, yeah, I mean... it feels like platitudes to me, like wanting to win. Like, everything comes down to risk reward. It comes down to what is the right decision, right? It's kind of like when people talk about like progress, like we need to make progress. We need to be progressive. We need like progress to what though? Like, you're just saying words. I mean, it's so shallow and empty to just say, blanket words. Like have a full on discussion about what we're talking about. He doesn't want to win. Of course he does. We all know he wants to win that game. You think he's going to try to lose it? No, he's going to put in the guys that make the most sense to play in this game, given the full context. Then, with those players, he's going to do the best he can to draw up a game plan to win. Well, if he was trying to win, he'd put, no. They're two different discussions. I mean, legitimately, do you think that they're just going to tell Clayton Tune, please go out and throw interceptions because I want to lose this game? That doesn't make any sense. Of course, that's not the case. Of course, he's not trying to lose. He's trying to do what's best for the team overall. And this is very much like the discussion, whether it comes to the draft or free agency or anything, where it's always all in, all in, all in, all in. Why? Because we care about the now at the expense of the future. And this is that on steroids. This is that on frickin' crack cocaine. Because at least in that situation, if we're talking about going all in, we're talking about ways that can actually help us reach our ultimate goal, which is a Super Bowl, even if it slightly maximizes our chance this year at the expense of the next 5 years, which I don't generally agree with, but at least it's kind of sensible. When we're talking about it now, we're talking about risking our future at the expense of a game that means nothing. And by future, I mean actually winning the Super Bowl. We're going to risk winning the Super Bowl because, we don't have all these players. And also risking our future as in what happens beyond this. And an injury is not just this game. It's not just this season. It's also not just the next year. These injuries can be catastrophic for a player as far as their ability to return. We talked about that with Micah Parsons. We went through some of the numbers and the stark decline that generally happens when guys like him, especially pass rushers and whatnot, tear their ACLs. Their ability to recover is reduced. That's not a guarantee that that's going to happen to Micah, but based on the numbers, more than likely his career has been shortened. The likelihood of him coming back as an elite player has been reduced. It's never 100%, and it's never going to be 0%. But whatever the percentage was, it's now lower because he tore his ACL. So we're risking all of these things for what? So that instead of going 0-4, we go 1-3? Really? Really? And again, how far back do we have to go to feel like this is a bad idea? I could see if last year we didn't. I mean, I can't. I think it would be stupid reasoning. But if, for example, last year we sat our starters and then lost that first week in the playoffs, immediately people are going to say, well, that didn't work, so now you have to do the opposite, which is such stupid reasoning. But that stuff happens all the time. We tried this last year and it didn't work because you can't sit your starter, blah, 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 blah. Last year we did not sit our starters. We actually, as I said, did the worst possible thing you could do, which is start your players and then start to lose and then get injuries and then bench your players. So you started your starters, you took the injuries, then you benched your players and you lost the game. It was the worst possible scenario. Why? That just happened 1 year ago. 1 year ago. And you can't tell me, well, it was just the sitting of the starters that was the problem. No, not at all. No, because first of all, I don't think we were going to win that game with our starters. And second of all, the injuries would still be there. So you cannot tell me that the only problem was that we sat our starters and we should have just played them the whole game. Yeah, okay, great. So we would have just lost more people and then lost the game, or what? Like, what are we talking about here? I don't understand this. So anyways, Jordan is healthy and will not play. I don't know exactly what the full list is of people that will be playing and whatnot. 23-0. Wow. Oregon did frickin' work on Texas Tech. Huh? Just peeked over and the game was been half paying attention. Anyways, I want to dig into that a little bit more in the second portion here. We don't have, I don't know if I just said this, but we don't have confirmation on anybody else outside of Malik. Obviously, that's why Clayton Tune is starting. Malik is also not going to play. Again, I'm perfectly fine with that. I think Malik gives us a decent chance to win if Jordan were to go down during the playoff. So I wouldn't really want to risk him getting hurt anyway. I think we can probably assume quite a few people that are not going to play. I don't expect Watson or Reed. Probably not Zach Tom, some other offensive linemen perhaps. We'll see about pass rushers. Rashawn and Van Ness may not play. So I don't know. We'll see, and maybe I'll get some updates here as we go along. But as of right now, that's all I know. So why don't we take a break here? I want to dig into one thing real quick as far as the injuries, and then we'll turn our attention to the Minnesota Vikings. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Okay, so first of all, I just want to reiterate. I've said this before, but I keep getting messages, and I'm sorry that I'm trying to get this fixed. Hopefully it's a little bit better, but there are times when the syllables of my words or whatever at the end of sentences get cut off. It's just it looks, I mean, from what I'm looking at right now, it looks like it's going a little faster. Let me just do something here. I don't think that got cut off. Maybe it's fixed. I don't know. We've had this problem in the past. It lasted for a long time before. I know it's very annoying. I get a lot of people messaging me whenever it happens. So I do apologize. It sounds stupid, and I'm guessing you can get the gist of what I'm saying, but I'm trying. I'm trying to get it worked out. It's a combination of, for some reason, this thing is kind of lagging, and a habit of how I record the podcast. I don't edit. I just we just go live, and I just say what I say. And then when I'm done with a thought, I just push the old P button, which pauses, so I can kind of get my thoughts together, go look at some other stuff. Well, when I'm done talking and then boom, hit P without a pause, like I just did there, if the program for whatever reason is lagging, it didn't get the last part. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a two-part problem. Number one is trying to break that habit in the meantime, and then figuring out what's causing it. I don't know if I just have too much running or if it's a problem with the software. I have no idea. I don't know what causes that. But anywho, hopefully that's getting cleaned up. It looks better. I don't want to get into the whole, but I could kind of tell what it was doing before, and it doesn't appear to be doing that now. So fingers crossed that it's at least a little better. And I'll try to remember to put a little pause and then, push the old P button. All right, so I want to continue on this thought just for a little bit. I want to, as I tend to do, over-explain and really drive home a point on this issue of whether we should sit our starters or not. It feels to me, and not just like my perception of what other people are thinking, but even for me, it almost has this feeling of being overly cautious. In other words, it kind of feels like what we're saying is, look, nobody's probably going to get injured. It's very unlikely anyone's going to get injured, but it's not worth risking it just in case. That's not true. That's not the reality. There have been massive amounts of injury. We don't just have to go back to the last time it happened, because that could be an anomaly, and okay, it happened, but it's still really rare. It's not rare. So we're going to spend some time massively over-explaining this to drill this point home. Okay, ready? Week 1. Zach Tom suffers an oblique injury during Week 1 win over the Lions, was listed as dealing with an injury in the first Week 2 report and missed practice estimates. By the way, he's been suffering through that oblique injury all year long. Aaron Banks left Week 1 game with an ankle injury. Jordan Morgan had to step in at left guard after Banks exited the fourth quarter. Bo Melton injured his shoulder in Week 1. His return table was described as unknown. Daniel Whalen injured his kicking leg. Fortunately, that was not a long-term deal, but that's dangerous. And Quay Walker injured his quadricep. Week 1, there were 7 injuries. Oh, and I think I missed one. Brenton Cox was hurt in the first half of Week 1 versus Detroit, did not return, did not practice, officially ruled out against the Commanders. We haven't really seen Brenton Cox until now. Week 2, you may remember Jayden Reed suffered a shoulder injury, also known as a broken collarbone or clavicle, and was placed on IR. In Week 3 against the Commanders, Zach Tom re-aggravated his oblique injury. He was listed as questionable to return. Left guard Aaron Banks exited the first half with a groin injury. Javon Bullard dropped out with a head injury. Defensive tackle Devontae Wyatt suffered a knee injury late in the game. Okay. Anthony Belton, ankle injury, out. Week 6, Van Ness, foot injury, hurt during the game, left on a cart, out for 5 weeks. Also in Week 6, Brandon McManus had a quad injury. We know how that went. He missed, I think, 3 games, Weeks 7, 8, and 9. Also in Week 6, Dontavian Wicks had an ankle injury. Week 7 and 8, minor injuries people worked through. Week 9, Tucker Kraft tore his ACL during the game, left the game, out for the season. Matthew Golden hurts his shoulder, missed the next 3 of the next 4 games. Colby Wooden hurts his shoulder, out Week 10. Aaron Banks has a stinger and ended up leaving the game, but returned the next week. Christian Watson gets a concussion during the game, still in Week 9. Week 10, Elton Jenkins fractures his leg, left on a cart, out for the season. Romeo Dobbs, chest injury, leaves the game. Week 12, Lucas Van Ness plays 6 snaps and leaves the game, out weeks 13 and 14. Also, Devontae Wyatt fractures his ankle in the fourth quarter, leaves on a cart, IR, out for the season. Javon Bullard gets an ankle injury. Jordan Love has a left shoulder injury. Keyshawn Nixon gets a neck injury. Dontavian Wicks has a calf injury, all during the game. Week 15, Micah Parsons tears his ACL, leaves the game, out for the season. Marshawn Lloyd has a calf and hamstring injury during the game, out for the season. Christian Watson, chest and shoulder injury, leaves the game. Zach Tom has a knee injury, leaves the game and misses 2 more weeks. Josh Wiley gets a concussion, leaves the game, out week 16. Evan Williams, knee injury, leaves the game, out week 16. Jordan Love gets a concussion, leaves the game, out week 17. Malik Willis has a right shoulder injury. Week 17, Malik Willis aggravates his shoulder injury, leaves the game. Dontavian Wicks, concussion, leaves the game. Nate Hobbs, left knee injury, IR, out for the season. Zane Anderson, ankle, left the game, out on a cart, out for the season. Jordan Riley, Achilles injury, leaves the game on a cart, IR, out for the season. Savion, foot injury, also illness, out for the game. Kamal Haddon, ankle injury, IR, out for the season. Christian Welch, ankle injury, IR, out for the season. John Fitzpatrick, Achilles, IR, out for the season. We're not just looking at this and saying, maybe. It's unlikely that anybody of any significance gets hurt. But we're being super cautious. I'm telling you, somebody is going to get hurt, and based on the way this season is going, I almost guarantee it's going to be somebody of significance. If you go through this week to week, the amount of weeks that got skipped, not because nobody really got hurt, but nobody significant got significantly hurt. We're talking like 2 weeks out of this entire year. If you're going to play your starters, I'm telling you, someone is going to get hurt, and probably significantly. So which player would you like to sacrifice for at least the postseason, possibly for half of next season? Is it Jordan Love? Is it Christian Watson? Is it Jayden Reed? Which player are you willing to lose for this entire postseason run so that you can give it your best against the Vikings, which gives you a slightly better chance? The quarterback thing is obviously a significant chance, but is that your answer? You want Jordan Love to be the guy you're willing to sacrifice so you can win this game? I don't know how long I have to sit here and listen to people talk about the only thing that matters is Super Bowls. Super Bowls are the only thing that matters. And we've got a decent amount of overlap between those people and the people who are willing to sacrifice our ability to win a Super Bowl by injuring key players to win a meaningless Week 17 game.
I think you have your priorities mixed up a little bit, because I thought the Super Bowl was the game that mattered. I thought that was the game you go all in for. Not a game that means absolutely nothing, except possibly, maybe in somebody's mind, they're going to be sad and not play as well because we didn't try harder. How many starters do you think are sitting there going, man, I really want to put my body on the line for this game. I'm pissed that that I have to sit out. I should be out there. And now I'm angry and sad and I'm not going to play as well in the postseason. Contrast that weird sadness thing that you think is going on with the ability to rest these players whose bodies are completely beaten and battered. I can tell you as an older individual, not like old, but, past the age of you can still do young people stuff and not get hurt. The amount of time, one of the things I'm realizing that sucks is there's a desire to push through, right? Just be a man and push through it. The problem is the more you push through, you're not going to heal. The amount of times I take 2 to 3 days off and just let my body heal and then come back refreshed, it's just needed. But these football players, they don't really get an opportunity. You have to go. Unless it's a very severe injury, you have to go and you have to push through. And it doesn't allow your body to heal. Right? And I'm not talking about do nothing, because I don't think it's good if you just sit on the couch for, a long time, because then you kind of get out of it or whatever. But we're not talking about 10 months. We're talking about an extra week where you still put in intense workouts and you still do all these different things, but you're not having 280-pound men slam into you at full force and drill you into the ground. We're kind of just leaving that out for a little bit. So, again, I understand the whole, we got to give it our all and all that stuff. And if we lose this game, it's 4 in a row, and that feels significant, even though it's hard to put into words what exactly is so significant about trying to win that game. And I will reiterate, the absolute worst possible scenario is you put in your starters and you lose. That's the absolute worst possible thing you can do. Morale will be at an all-time low. There will be injuries. And nobody will believe they're going to do anything in the postseason if you lose to this Vikings team that, by the way, is on an absolute freaking heater. They're on a heater right now. And the Pack, they are on a massive win streak as we're on a losing streak. You put in your starters and lose some of your starters because you decided to put in your starters for some reason and lose that game, it's over. It is freaking beyond over. All right? So, no, we're not putting our starters in. And I don't know who's playing and who's not. My preference, sit as many people as you possibly can so that you can field a team. And that would be, in my mind, this is a preseason game, right? It's the guys that don't get a lot of opportunities that are going to be put out there. I wish Golden wasn't one of those guys, because it's he's one of our, he never gets the ball, so I guess he plays. That the freaking Colin Oliver, would love to see him. And just play with it. Have fun with it. Why not? Get weird. It's a preseason game. Do crazy stuff. Line them up at linebacker and blitz them and then set them off the edge. Just have fun with it. We're just having fun. You can play like it's a Super Bowl, running all kinds of crazy stuff with the crazy guys, because nobody's going to this game expecting to win. And then we chill. And we got guys that have the ability to get motivated, to get fired up. We give another week to get acclimated with what's his nuts, the Diggs, you know what I mean? Get him kind of acclimated in the scheme and figure out how we can use him and all that kind of stuff. Let Hafley kind of get his claws in there and, I don't know, see if he can cook something up. And then we go to the playoffs. And that's when we really dig in. It's not this week. It's just not. I don't want to lose. I don't want to sit here and do another live stream watching our team lose and watching guys that I don't want to get hurt. We're going to have to start some guys, and it's going to suck watching them go down and say, well, that sucks. They're not playing for us in the playoffs. But that's the reality. And then we're going to lose. And then there's a lot of people that are going to call in and say that that was terrible and we shouldn't have done that. And now we've lost 4 in a row and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Whatever, right? We endure that. We push through that. And then we go to the playoffs. And then it's all about the playoffs. And then it's everything you have in you, 100,000%. And we'll look at that. And if they come out flat, as they tend to do in the postseason, then we will get angry and we will break things and we will prepare for the frickin' offseason. But that's not today either. All right? So again, it is not just some like overly cautious, like I'm sure nothing's going to happen, but just in case. Good Lord, this list is massive. The amount of people, significant people, that have been hurt for significant periods of time is notable. All right, anyways, let's take our final break, and we'll come back and start looking at the Minnesota Vikings. We'll be right back. All right, so let's start from the beginning here, because the Vikings are a bit of an anomaly. We know that they've had terrible quarterbacks all year. And despite that, I mean, they weren't, I guess, the worst initially. I mean, they started 3-2 before their bye week, which is, it's fine, I guess. They, after their bye week, though, let's see, they lost 6 of their next 7 games. Pretty tough schedule, to be fair. But they lost to Philly, they lost to the Chargers, they beat the Lions, hilarious. They lost to the Ravens, they lost to the Bears, they lost to the Packers, they lost to the Seahawks. Since then, now, again, their schedule has completely flipped, including possibly Detroit. I don't know what their problem is. But they beat the Commanders, not good. They beat Dallas, I guess, I don't know. They beat the Giants, and they beat the Lions. I guess it's odd to me, considering you're looking at some of the worst quarterback play, depending on, it kind of doesn't even matter who their quarterback is. It's going to be one of the worst quarterbacks in football. And yet they're on a 4-game win streak. And not only that, I mean, they're winning. Obviously, they're not going to the playoffs, but it just reminds me of how like playoff teams win. When the offense is needed, the offense steps up. When the defense is needed, the defense steps up. In the case of their first win, and maybe this was the big motivating factor, I don't know, but 31-0. So it's odd because you're coming off, again, a 6 of 7 skid. Really bad. And then and not only that, you scored 6 points against the Packers. Then you scored 0 points against Seattle. So you scored 6 points in 2 weeks. You are done. You're dead. It's over. And then they play Washington. And granted, this one is at home and they've been away for 2 weeks, Green Bay and Seattle. But then you play Washington and you win 31-0. Then you play Dallas, and Dallas has a better offense. They actually score 26 points. You respond with 34. The next week, your offense sucks because your offense sucks. You only score 16 points, but your defense allows 13 and you win again. Then you play Detroit. Your defense only allows 10 points to Detroit and you score 23. They are, it kind of boggles the mind a touch. I went and looked at their week-to-week DVOA, offensively and defensively, and I'll be honest, I was expecting like a slow decline of offense and a massive spike of defense. That doesn't exist. There's been a slow increase in their defensive DVOA from about week 12 to week 17. We're talking from like -1, negative is better than positive, to like -13-ish, something like that. It's on a chart. I can't see the exact things, which is good. It's not elite. Especially since in week 3, they were at like -23. Their defense fell off and is slowly coming back. But their overall DVOA, as their offense slowly declines, kind of, it's a little bit more flat than the defensive increase. but it's still declining. Their total DVOA is going up since week 13. Again, it's not even, it's kind of back to where it was earlier in the season. But it's at, -7. So there's nothing there that I can see that's like, oh, that's what's killing them. And there's no question the defense is playing a big part of this. You look at that 4-game win streak. The 26 points to Dallas is the only time they gave up a decent amount. Otherwise, it was 0, 13, and 10, which, again, is a slow increase for the defense. But even if you look at points, they rank 10th, 8th in takeaways, 9th in net yards per attempt, 6th in rushing yards per attempt. These aren't terrible numbers, but it's not the kind of elite numbers you would expect from a defense to overcome an offense as bad as what we saw, for example, against Detroit. Well, if you kind of dig into it a little bit, first of all, again, it's 4 games. The first 2 games were a lot of offensive production. Very strangely, J.J. McCarthy just turned on the frickin' Jets. And everything that looked very, very good about J.J. McCarthy looked very, very good in these games. He's been bad every game. I mean, outside of these 2 games, his highest grade was a 65. He only had 2 games in the 60s. Otherwise, it's 50, 50, 50, 40, and then week 16 was his worst game. In those 2 games, Washington and Dallas, where they scored a bunch of points, J.J. McCarthy was just going psycho mode. His first game was his first actual good game. He was 16 of 23, 163 yards, 7.1 yards per attempt, which is surprisingly a lot for him. 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 78 grade, 73 passing grade, 2 big-time throws, which is 8%, 0 turnover-worthy plays, 129.2 NFL passer rating. Pretty good day. Then against Dallas, he's 15 of 24, 250 yards, 10.4 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 3 big-time throws, 0 turnover-worthy plays, meaning the interception was not his fault. The turnover-worthy plays are the big-time throw rate, 11.5% of his throws. Crazy. So the week before was 8. That was like almost his previous high. Then he goes to 11.5. By the way, week 16 was 12.5. So he just started going absolute psycho, even though he graded out terribly. But his PFF grade in week 15 against Dallas was a 90, and his passing grade was a 91 with a 108 passer rating. So the first 2 games are at least partially explained by J.J. McCarthy getting this offense going insane. Well, then week 16, J.J. McCarthy looks like J.J. McCarthy again. He goes 9 of 14 for 108 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception. That was 2 big-time throws, again, 12.5%, extremely high, but 3 turnover-worthy plays. 14.3% of his passes were basically to the defense. He had a 58 passer rating in that game. Then the next week, week 16 against the Giants, J.J. McCarthy goes out again. That guy has had some issues. But he again had a 41 passing grade. He was just 9 of 14, 101 yards, 0 touchdowns, and a pick. Max Brosmer comes in and actually does decent. He goes 7 of 9 for 52 yards. Doesn't play a ton, but 7 of 9, which was a 88% completion rate, adjusted completion rate. 1 big-time throw. Decent enough to get them over a hump against a bad team with a defense that's only going to allow 13 points. So again, first 2 weeks, J.J. McCarthy goes lights out, scores 31 and 34. If he doesn't do that, they don't beat Dallas. They beat Washington, but they don't beat Dallas. The Giants, the offense does not do well, but they do well enough, especially with Brosmer. Neither of them scores a single touchdown, but again, enough to move the ball, get down, do what you got to do. 16 points is over 13. Then you get the weirdest game ever, because Max Brosmer is the starting quarterback and is awful. He's 9 of 16 for 51 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, but 1 turnover-worthy play, 0 big-time throws, 62 passer rating, 3.16 is his time to throw, 35 passing grade. He is awful. Their best receiver of the day is Justin Jefferson, not surprisingly. However, what might be surprising is they had a 64.9 receiving grade. That was their best performance from a receiver. Their best their best runner based on yards was Jordan Addison, who had one run for 65 yards and a touchdown. Their actual starting running back was Aaron Jones, who ran for 2.9 yards per attempt and had a 49 rushing grade. On their offensive line, the only good performances you can find are right tackle Blake Brendel, who had a 73 pass blocking grade. Right tackle, right? Yeah, right tackle. I don't know why that got all jacked up. And center Michael Juergens with an 84 pass blocking grade. Nothing else was good. Their left tackle is Justin Skule, who graded in the 60s in both. Their left guard is Donovan Jackson, who graded in the 60s as a pass blocker, 40s as a run blocker. Their center, Michael Juergens, who did good as a pass blocker, was average as a run blocker. Their right guard, Will Fries, had a 57 run blocking grade and a 10 pass blocking grade. And then the right tackle, again, good pass blocking, average run blocking. I mean, there's nothing really inspiring here at all. So how in the world did they win this game? Well, the Detroit Lions had 6 turnovers. 6. That's how. So look, I'm not going to say fluke, because it's not really a fluke. It's just that they had exactly the things that they needed to win each individual game in those games. All right, Washington, they were going to win. I mean, the friggin' team scored 0 points. I mean, they dominated Washington. That's just is what it is. Dallas, they shouldn't have won that game. However, J.J. McCarthy, who's been terrible, decided to be the best quarterback in football that week and graded in the 90s. So that helped. The next week they have no quarterback whatsoever, but they have, but their non-quarterback goes out. Another guy comes in, does just enough to get you over a hump against a bad team. Then you play Detroit, and Detroit gives you the ball 6 times. By the way, Minnesota turned the ball over 0 times. So it's a 6-0 turnover ratio. So again, there isn't really, I mean, if you ask, the layman answer is, well, the defense has driven this. It's the defense. The defense is good. There's no question about that. It's a good defense. It's not 85 Bears, you know? It's not even 2018 Bears. It's a good defense. I think it's been a good defense for a while. But I think it's even more than that. Again, each individual game has just given exactly what they've needed, and they've ended up winning these 4 games as a result. So the question now is, well, what of those things do they have when they play us? Well, number 1, don't turn the ball over 6 times. Okay? If you do that, you will lose. So that's number 1. Number 2 would probably be, don't be the Giants. That's going to be actually more difficult than it seems, given we're sitting our starters. But that would be lesson number 2. Lesson number 3 is don't allow J.J. McCarthy to play and be the greatest quarterback in football. And then maybe don't score 0 points like Washington. Those would be the first 4 lessons that you could probably take away from this. On that note, why don't we look at the injury report here? J.J. McCarthy is now a full participant as of Thursday, so he's certainly looking like he's going to play. In addition, linebacker Blake Cashman is now a full participant. Running back Jordan Mason went from limited to full. Levi Drake Rodriguez went from limited to full. Gavin Bartholomew remains full. Harrison Smith is now off the injury report due to he was never injured, veteran rest. The 3 guys that have not participated still are wide receiver Miles Price, running back Aaron Jones with his hip injury, and tight end TJ Hawkinson with his shoulder injury. Those are not insignificant injuries. So as of right now, they're trending in the wrong direction, as I had mentioned yesterday, just based on tone, not really anything super concrete. The one that seemed to be the most pessimistic would be Aaron Jones being able to play. So, anywho, we will continue diving into some of this stuff tomorrow. And for tonight, though, I'm going to leave it at that. You all have a good rest of your night. I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.